38-year-old Brenda Schaefer was missing.
Although many leads were covered, anything that came up, it was followed, it was tracked down, usually to a dead end.
Trapped in a love affair that was spinning out of control, she had decided to cut things off with her boyfriend.
We just kept exhibiting these very controlling behaviors that were getting worse and worse.
But just before the breakaway, she dropped out of sight permanently.
Ultimately, offenders like this, they prey on people, though. They do strike when you don't expect them to.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to Louisville, Kentucky, a busy metropolis famous for popular pursuits like baseball and the Kentucky Derby. Louisville also suffers from the criminal activity that impacts most major cities. In this case, obsession took control and ended in a barbaric murder. It would take a grand jury, a trial for murder, and 2 trials for perjury to deliver some justice to the victim and her grieving family. Early on a Sunday morning, police came upon an abandoned Buick sedan. The car was registered to local resident Brenda Schaefer.
The vehicle was located on the side of the road, not far from her home on Interstate 64.
During the previous afternoon, Brenda had met with her boyfriend to return some jewelry he had given her, including an engagement ring. The relationship was over, but he convinced her to join him for an early dinner.
He had asked Brenda to drive that day because he was having problems with his Corvette. There was something wrong with one of the tires, and so asked Brenda to drive on their date.
After dinner, Brenda planned to drop off her boyfriend before heading home, where she was taking care of her ailing mother. But instead, Brenda apparently drove out of town and was never heard from again.
And it wasn't like her. She always would call. She would always come home on time. Her mother realized about 3:30 in the morning that she had not come home.
So what happened to this bright and energetic medical assistant?
She was a very likable person, beautiful woman, lacked self-confidence, but just loved by everyone who knew her. She worked hard. She was very dedicated to her family.
She had a really nice family. She had a great job. So many of the aspects of her life were fulfilled, but she was missing love, and she was getting to be around her mid-30s. And I think she was just looking for that missing piece.
Was the right man right there in Louisville?
A friend introduced her to Mel Ignato, who was about 15 years her senior. He seemed confident, knew what he wanted. He had that sort of charisma, and Brenda probably was a little bit shyer and quieter.
They had been set up on a blind date, and it was probably somebody who she would be attracted to. He was professional, he was successful in his business, he had a nice home, he had a nice boat, and she had just broken off a long-term relationship with a prior boyfriend.
Mel Ignato, a salesman by trade, played the role of Prince Charming to a T. He flattered Brenda for several months, buying her gifts and jewelry, and soon he wanted to take the next step.
He started talking about getting married, and she wasn't ready for it, did not want to be engaged at the time.
But Mel hinted and pushed and nudged until one Valentine's Day, he proposed, and Brenda said yes.
They became engaged, but she sometimes wouldn't wear a ring in public. She didn't talk to a lot of people about it.
The romance had disintegrated over the 2 years Mel and Brenda had been together, and the engagement ring became a tool of control rather than a token of commitment.
Just became more and more controlling, not letting her see her friends, not letting her go out with anybody without him knowing where she was. She had to call and check in with him at the end of each day. If she wasn't at work, he wanted to know where she was.
At first, there's kind of like that false charm, and that can only last so long before Mel's true colors came out. And in fairness, when his true colors came out eventually, Brenda did begin to plot to leave the relationship.
She started talking to some of her friends about wanting to end the relationship. She had started seeing her former boyfriend again and was talking to him about leaving Mel Ignato. And a lot of her girlfriends knew that she was going to be breaking up with him.
When Brenda vanished, Mel Ignato was automatically tagged as the #1 suspect. But Mel stayed out of reach. Evidence was lacking, and investigators struggled to build a case against him.
Things were kind of at a dead end right there as far as being able to obtain evidence to really indict or arrest him on anything.
But soon, an unexpected witness would expose the truth about Mel Ignato and what happened to Brenda Schaefer on the night she disappeared.
She became jealous and obsessive. She would follow him, she would stalk him, she would want to know where he was at all times.
Was Mel Ignato involved in the disappearance of Brenda Schaefer? Maybe, although there was nothing to charge him with, there was also nothing to absolve him, at least not yet. As investigators gathered more information, a sharper profile of Mel Ignato began to take shape.
He liked to make up stories about himself. He embellished about who he was. So he had this need to be admired, a need to be adored.
He very much liked to be the center of attention. He was a narcissist. He was very controlling about everything, whether it was the cleanliness of his house, what they did on dates. Very manipulative and could be charming. He used that to control people who probably lacked confidence, especially women.
Lacking the evidence to nail Ignato to the wall, the police suggested that he appear before a grand jury, hoping he would say something that might incriminate himself.
Mel Ignato couldn't resist the urge to testify in front of the grand jury. Now, he didn't have to do this, but he has an ego, and they knew that they could kind of pander to this ego. So Mel finds himself in front of a grand jury, and of course he does not admit any wrongdoing in Brenda's case. He says that he loved her and that he would never have harmed her.
Then he makes a critical error in judgment. He mentions an ex-girlfriend, Marianne Shore.
And this led police and prosecutors to become curious about Marianne.
She met Mel while they were working at the company where he was employed as a salesman. She took care of his children. She was a nanny for him and knew his family well.
Marianne Shore and Mel Ignato grew close and then dated on and off for a decade.
Mel probably was kind to her in ways that were conducive to his needs and maybe something that she hadn't experienced before.
Despite their longevity as a couple, their love affair eventually imploded.
Later on, as he started dating Brenda, he became less interested in Marianne, and she became jealous and obsessive.
FBI Special Agent Deirdre Fike was newly assigned to the Violent Crime Squad in the Louisville field office. You were fairly new to the Bureau. How did you wind up working this particular case?
They felt it would probably be good to bring me in as a fresh face and knew that it would help to have a female on the investigation.
Even after they broke up, Marianne Shore remained loyal to Mel Ignato, but she also knew his secrets. And now that Mel had mistakenly name-dropped her to the grand jury, she took a hard look at her current situation.
I believe that she knew her life was in danger. She knew what had happened, and she was the only one that had information that could make the case.
On one side, Mel Ignato, her shady ex-boyfriend. On the other, law enforcement officers urging her to reveal what she knew.
She had been told that her life was probably in danger and that she needed to come forward.
Finally, after almost a year and a half after Brenda Schaefer went missing, the phone rang at the FBI. Marianne Shore wanted to cut a deal.
I sat with Marianne and I just reassured her and just wanted to make sure that she was going to proceed with being able to tell us what everybody needed to know to charge Mel Ignato with the case.
And lo and behold, at some point, Marianne Shore confesses that she and Mel murdered Brenda Schaefer.
He couldn't handle the fact that Brenda was looking at ending their relationship. He convinced Marianne to be complicit in the murder of Brenda Schaefer, and not only wanted her to be out of the picture, but also wanted Brenda to suffer and be tortured.
So you needed some kind of admission from Mel that he plotted to kill Brenda Schaefer. So Marianne was rigged for sound, correct?
I assisted in getting her wired with a microphone device, and she was instructed with some information about what needed to be said to arrest him on the charges. And the conversation didn't go quite as expected.
So the wire didn't capture the conversation you needed. Meanwhile, what was going on with Mel?
Agents that were assigned to watch Mel Ignato at his house started to see him packing a suitcase, and because there was reasonable belief that he had the means to flee the country, a decision was made at that time to go ahead and arrest Mel Ignato.
Investigators had to proceed delicately. One miscalculation and a killer could slip right through their fingers, along with any real justice for Brenda Schaefer.
Brenda did see the flags pretty early on, and she reacted when she saw them. Unfortunately for her, it was just a little bit too late.
Over his 2-year relationship with Brenda Schaefer, salesman Mel Ignato pushed their love affair far beyond the bounds of sanity.
As the investigation went on and we worked with the behavioral science unit, they were able to determine that he exhibited most of the traits of a sexual sadist.
And unfortunately, that means that someone like Mel Ignato derives sexual pleasure from really harming someone else, from inflicting pain upon them. That's really one of the scariest types of offenders we can look at in society.
Marianne Shore had dropped the hammer on Mel Ignato, telling investigators that she had assisted him in executing Brenda Schaefer and burying the body in Shore's backyard. Even with evidence pointing directly at him, Mel Ignato stared down his accusers.
He was in denial the whole time. He never admitted to anything, and his reaction to the disappearance of his fiancée was something that would not be a normal response.
The murder trial went off the rails when Marianne Shore, the key witness for the prosecution, delivered testimony so cold and nonchalant that people wondered if she had killed Brenda Schaefer. In the end, Mel Ignato was acquitted.
So Mel Ignato was a free man. He was acquitted, and he seemingly had not a worry in the world.
But 6 months later, in the house that Mel had sold to pay his legal bills, a carpet installer uncovered a plastic bag taped inside a floor vent.
There was jewelry and there were pictures, rolls of film that were undeveloped. In fact, it corroborated everything Marianne Shore had said, because these were pictures of Brenda Schaefer being raped and murdered.
On the night that Mel Ignato tortured Brenda Schaefer to death, he directed Marianne to snap photos of each move in his twisted game. Those pictures unmasked him completely as Brenda's killer.
Mel Ignato decided that he wanted Brenda to come to Marianne's house for what he described as a sex therapy class. And Mel was obsessed with sex, and he had decided that he really wanted to punish Brenda before killing her. So he and Marianne came up with a plan that they would come to her house where he would torture her before killing her.
So what kind of items did he choose for the so-called therapy class?
He had a murder kit which consisted of rope and chloroform and shovels, and he and Marianne, and weeks before, went and dug a gravesite in the back of her home.
On the night of the murder, after a meal at a nearby restaurant, Mel convinced Brenda to drop in on his friend Marianne Shore, and he put his sadistic plan into motion.
They spent 4 hours torturing Brenda prior to killing her. She was tied to a glass coffee table that was in Marianne's house. She was repeatedly sexually assaulted and physically assaulted.
Satisfied that he had taught Brenda her lesson, Mel used chloroform to suffocate her to death.
After she was murdered, they participated in preparing Brenda's body for the burial by folding up her body into a small package and then putting her into a trash bag, which would be buried along with her clothing that she had been wearing in a separate bag. Marianne helped him transport her to the gravesite where she was buried, back in the woods behind Marianne's house.
Mel Ignato's guilt was no longer in question, but there was one problem. He had already been acquitted of murdering Brenda Schaefer.
Double jeopardy means in our legal system that you cannot be tried for the same crime twice if you've been acquitted. So in this case, there was no way to try Mel again.
Instead, prosecutors took a fresh approach. They stitched together 2 trials for perjury that sentenced Mel Ignato to jail for a total of 17 years.
After he served his time, he was released and was drinking and fell into a glass coffee table, which is how he died. And it did seem to be poetic justice that he had tortured Brenda Schaefer on a glass coffee table prior to her death.
Why didn't Mel Ignato let Brenda Schaefer go when she wanted to leave him? Police say because in his mind, he simply could not allow her to.
It was his way of getting back at Brenda. He wasn't going to allow her to leave him, humiliate him, and didn't want anybody else having her either.
What distinguishes this case is the type of sadism that Mel showed. This was about hurting someone and the gratification that he felt about it. He didn't feel any sympathy. He didn't feel any empathy. He simply derived pleasure from it. And I think that's what really stands out about this case and what distinguishes it from other cases involving murder by the hand of a domestic partner.
It is a sad truth that behind the veneer of the so-called perfect man might be someone like Mel Ignato, cruel, abusive, and possibly a killer. When Brenda Schaefer agreed to date him, she didn't realize she was making a deal with the devil. And now it's time for today's Safety Spotlight. Sadly, leaving an abusive partner can be difficult, even deadly, but help is available. Reach out to a trusted friend, family member, or local domestic violence organization for support and housing resources. Avoid communicating or meeting with an abusive ex if possible. If you must meet with them to exchange items or for custody purposes, consider doing so in a public location like a police station or fire department. And for more safety information and resources, contact the National Domestic Violence Hotline at 1-800-799-SAFE. I'm Nancy Odell. For all of us here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe. Gunshots turn a joyful night into a nightmare.
Mr. Jackson lying there in a pool of blood, and all of this was witnessed by his fiance and her daughter.
Was Jackson's fiance or stepdaughter able to provide a description of the men?
It was a group of men all wearing masks, dark hoodies.
We were notified by the bank that someone had made attempts to cash these checks. He's like, well, hey, yeah, that was me on the camera.
Did investigators believe him?
No, ma'am.
What's so alarming about this whole situation is that it didn't have to happen.
Hi, I'm Nancy O'Dell. Today's Crime Exposé takes us to the affluent neighborhood of Riverside, Georgia, just 20 miles northwest of Atlanta. Gunfire turned a beautiful spring night into a family's worst nightmare. Atlanta police found themselves on the hunt for multiple assailants when a beloved man was murdered in his own home. Identifying the shooter would prove challenging and reveal the tragic motive behind this senseless crime. May 7th should have been a night to celebrate for Jerick Jackson and his fiancée. Their daughter had returned home from college, and the couple had enjoyed a night out.
They had had a late dinner and then finished the dinner and were actually coming home for the night.
But as the couple was exiting their Porsche SUV, they were confronted by masked assailants.
When Jerick and his fiancée pulled up at their residence, the individuals basically ambushed them. And so he began to fight the suspects. As he began to fight, one of them actually shot Jerick.
911 calls came in from neighbors as well as Jackson's stepdaughter.
They heard 3 gunshots, and they also said black Porsche SUV with the doors open.
Atlanta police arrived at the scene minutes later, and 47-year-old Jerick Jackson, who was still clinging on to life, was rushed to the hospital.
It was a very chaotic scene. The police were talking about Mr. Jackson lying there in the foyer area of the house, in a pool of blood, and of course, all of this was witnessed by his fiance and her daughter. So it was difficult to get them to calm down, to get an understanding of what was going on.
Jackson's fiancée described how the robbery had escalated.
Several men in masks and guns confronted our victim, Jerick Jackson, and his fiancée at gunpoint, demanded their money and took cash from them and their cell phones, and then rushed them into their house, essentially forced them to go inside their home.
Knowing that his stepdaughter was in the house, Jackson did everything he could to stop them from entering.
She was home from college. She heard the commotion downstairs and she went to see what was going on. When the daughter came downstairs, they saw her, they made an attempt to go up the stairs. And it was at that point that, it's our belief that Mr. Jackson was just protecting his daughter and the fight was on. And so now he's fighting with these 3 individuals, not one particular. And it was during that fight with them that he was shot.
You can call him a hero, so to speak, because he was trying to protect not only his fiancée, but as well as the stepdaughter who was inside the residence.
The assailants fled after the shooting.
They took their ATM cards and blank checks. That's it. They really didn't get much from the incident. I believe that the fact that Mr. Jackson fought back kind of startled them.
They were hoping to get more, but at the point where the robbery had turned into a shooting, they grabbed what they could and they left.
Was Jackson's fiancée or stepdaughter able to provide a description of the men?
They described them as 20 to 25-year-old black males. It was a group of men all wearing masks. She couldn't identify anybody, and the daughter couldn't identify anybody either. So based on the initial police report, there weren't many leads or much evidence to go about.
Police immediately began canvassing the area and called in descriptions of what neighbors and other eyewitnesses had seen in real time.
They saw a black male with a gray hoodie. He was picked up by a black Mustang.
For the suspects, there's going to be 5 black males in total. One of the black males had on a red hoodie. Another one had on blue jeans. A third suspect had on gray sweats.
As news of Jackson's shooting spread amongst his neighbors and loved ones, the 47-year-old passed away.
That individual that was brought into the homicide office with his mother, he's like, well, hey, yeah, that was me on the camera.
The untimely and tragic murder of 47-year-old Jerick Jackson sent shockwaves through the community.
People are definitely going to be interested in particular because of the manner in which the crime happened, in conjunction with the fact that the victim was related to a well-known, high-profile minister in the area.
Jackson had fulfilled his childhood dream of becoming a train conductor and had recently moved into his home.
He did well for himself. He worked hard, and you could see a lot of the fruits of his labor, even with the car that he drove, which was a really nice Porsche.
Investigators left no stone unturned, canvassing the area and exploring all possible motives for the crime.
They solicited help through tips from the public. So they would do a news story. And once they do that news story, usually tips start pouring in.
Jackson's brother asked his loyal congregation for help.
Wiley Jackson, who is the victim's brother, who was the well-known minister in the area, immediately got involved in the case by pleading to his congregation as well as the community and offering a reward in order to gather more information about who killed his brother.
Investigators explored the possibility that the megachurch pastor was the intended target of the murder.
We knew that the church had some issues concerning some things, but there was never anything to suggest that any of that was related to Jerick Jackson's murder.
Detectives focused their efforts on Jackson's neighborhood and located surveillance footage of the black Mustang eyewitnesses had seen on the night of the murder.
I remember recovering surveillance video from the neighborhood, and it's clear these people were riding around looking for a victim, someone to target.
Police could see the make and model of the car trailing the Porsche and used their investigative skills to determine the license plate number.
We were able to determine, hey, someone just made a police report about being robbed and their black Mustang was taken earlier that same day. And we make the connection. So now we know the tag number, we have everything.
While investigators tried locating the stolen car, they also hoped the stolen items from Jackson and his fiancée might help them find their suspects.
Investigators immediately wanted to catch whoever was responsible for this. So the first thing that they ended up doing was investigating the credit cards and the ATM cards, along with the checks, to see if there was any activity from any of the financial institutions.
Someone had attempted to cash one of the stolen checks.
The woman who was on camera, she was caught on camera using one of the checks from the victim.
The images were released to the media.
And interestingly enough, that person reached out to the police. Hey, that was me that you guys saw. I need to talk to you guys.
The woman acknowledged she was illegally trying to cash a check, but insisted she had not stolen them.
That the purse was reportedly tossed, and she got the checkbooks from someone. In a nutshell, she was hoping to get her some money.
Although she had tried to pass the check that wasn't hers, there was nothing to suggest the woman caught on camera had any connection to the crime.
And that was the same scenario with respect to the ATM cards.
On the same evening of the murder, a single male figure is seen getting out of a car and using an ATM machine with one of the stolen debit cards.
That individual that was brought into the homicide office with his mother, he's like, well, hey, yeah, that was me on the camera, but this was the guy that was with me. I was walking down the street and I got picked up by this guy named Demetrius, him and a couple other guys, and they're in his car, and I just went to the ATM machine, got the money, and we got back in that Crown Victoria, and I had some money and I went my way. But he was able to give us the names of the individuals that he got these cards from, and it was from there where things started moving along in the investigation. These guys were there in the car. They were there in the area when this murder occurred.
Jerick Jackson's tragic murder and the media attention it received generated numerous tips that helped police identify the getaway car and a loosely connected group of suspects.
We got names and we got individuals. We have the type of car that they were in, and that's where the case starts being built.
The investigation was gaining momentum when Atlanta police became aware of a 911 call from a concerned citizen who had been watching the news.
A good citizen is calling the police to say, hey, there are these kids riding around in this particular vehicle, a black Mustang.
The call had come from a home less than 2 miles from the crime scene.
It's just a person, hey, these kids are out here joyriding in it, and they went into this particular apartment.
Investigators made their way to the apartment mentioned by the caller, and a young woman answered the door.
It was the girlfriend of Demetrius Morgan.
She fielded questions about Morgan and the vehicle he was allegedly driving.
A Crown Victoria that was captured on pictures. Well, yeah, that's my mom's car. This is what Demetrius' girlfriend tells us. That's my mom. She has that kind of car. So now we have, shortly after the murder, someone trying to get money out of a bank in a vehicle that we were able to connect with the murder, and we now have a name of this individual, Demetrius Morgan.
16-year-old Demetrius Morgan, who went by the nickname Meat Meat, had become the prime suspect in the investigation of Jerick Jackson. New surveillance video was released to the public showing the men suspected in the fatal robbery, trying to use the stolen debit card at a convenience store.
Demetrius wasn't hard to find. He's seen it on the news that the police are looking, so it's in Demetrius' best interest to find us.
Demetrius Morgan reached out to the Atlanta Police Department after seeing himself on the news. What did he share with police during that initial meeting?
He essentially shared that, well, hey, first of all, I ain't killed nobody, but I was with these guys and that was it. I didn't have nothing to do with the murder. He just gave us the names of individuals that he was with, and that was it. And they had the purse and they had the ATM card. Essentially, these are the guys you need to be looking at.
Did investigators believe him?
No, ma'am. But, as an investigator, that's what you do. You take what you get. I mean, you'll find some bit of truth in it. And I think the truth in what he was telling us was he was with them. He knows these individuals and he's given us names. So we go from there.
Investigators weren't exactly sure how Morgan had been involved in the murder, but his statement was a watershed moment for the investigation. He gave police the names of men he had been out with that night, young men he knew as Trey, Big Papa, and Gino.
And so we started working on those individuals, those names, and just going from there, building up the investigation.
2 weeks after Jackson's murder, with the help of the media and various tips, police were able to identify the other men. 19-year-old Gino Lewis, 17-year-old Montravius Bradley, and they learned Big Papa was 18-year-old Alejandro Pitts, who amazingly agreed to an interview.
Do you know a young joker named Meat Meat?
I don't really know him like that.
So you don't know Meat Meat?
His name is Demetrius Morgan.
You never talked to him on the phone?
No, I don't know him. Would it surprise you if we said he knows you?
Pitts denied knowing anything about the crime or anyone involved in the murder.
We got you in the Mustang. Everybody in your neighborhood is talking about how you had the Mustang. You and Trey.
I don't know about that.
I don't know about no handbag taken from the crime scene with a lady's credit card information in it?
I don't know about that.
Okay, all right.
Pitts' denials only strengthened the momentum of the investigation. Behind the scene, the Atlanta Police Department was steadily building their case.
Investigators were able to finally find the stolen black Mustang, which they were able to test. And they found fingernail clippings that belonged to at least 2 of the suspects who were inside that vehicle.
And we were able to get some DNA evidence from that.
In August, 3 months after Jackson's murder, Morgan, Lewis, Bradley, and Pitts were arrested. Demetrius Morgan was the first one to cooperate with investigators.
I heard a gunshot. I pulled like I didn't want to leave though, because I ain't know who it was, like who it was got shot. I ain't know they being killed.
So if I'm not putting words in your mouth, you don't know whether or not one of them's been hit?
When I heard the gunshot, I don't know if it's the man or them, one of them.
He heard the shots. He didn't know who shot He just heard the shots, and then once they ran back to the car, he pulled off.
Did he tell you who had actually shot Mr. Jackson?
And he admitted to being there, but his only involvement in the case was he stayed in the car.
Demetrius Morgan eventually confesses to the crime and then tells police that there is also a fifth suspect in this crime.
He said 19-year-old Felton Lovejoy was also involved in the crime. Morgan was arrested after his interrogation. Morgan insisted the motive was solely robbery.
These guys got out with the intent to rob and get the car.
They spotted it, they lusted for it, and they wanted it. So that was the main reason why they targeted this particular victim, just because of the vehicle.
These guys were awfully young to be doing the things that they're doing. What prompts people, young kids, to wanna, this is what I'm gonna do with my life?
After the arrest of all 5 suspects, DNA testing on the fingernail clippings found inside the stolen vehicle showed they belonged to Lovejoy and Bradley.
When they took Mr. Jackson's life, they basically sacrificed their own life. And for what? And so they'll spend the rest of their life having to deal with this mistake that they made. And it's unfortunate and sad.
Jerick Jackson's family will forever remember him for his bravery and for the happy moments they shared.
All they have now is memories, good memories of their brother, but they don't have their brother.
The man lost his life because some teenagers, some young boys, were in love with a car that cost a man his life, that changed several families' lives forever.
Felton Lovejoy and Montravius Bradley pled guilty to murdering Jackson and were both sentenced to life in prison. In separate trials, Gina Lewis, Alejandro Pitts, and Demetrius Morgan were each sentenced to 20 to 30 years for their role in the crime. And now it is time for today's Safety Spotlight. Despite what we see play out on the big screen, most robberies don't take place at a bank, but more commonly occur in parking lots, garages, or at residences, as we saw in this tragic case. A robbery or home invasion can be terrifying, even deadly, and though the rate of occurrence is decreasing, there are still steps you can take to help maximize your safety. For example, situational awareness, staying alert, and being aware of your surroundings and ready to respond goes a long way. Should you ever find yourself being robbed, safety experts recommend you remain calm and do not resist, as this may jeopardize your safety. Instead, if you can, make mental notes of their appearance and actions. After the robbery, immediately move to a safe location and report the crime. I'm Nancy O'Dell. For everyone here at Crime Exposé, please join us next time and stay safe.